Hey everyone, so today I am going to be reviewing The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. And first off, let me just say that the reason I picked up this book was probably the same reason that 99% of people pick up this book. Because I don't know if you guys can see in the video, but there is a little shout out at the top of the book that says, by far the best book on investing ever written. And that quote is from Warren Buffett. And the reason that quote means so much to so many people is because Warren Buffett is arguably the most successful investor ever. I feel like most people wouldn't even dispute that. He's just the most successful investor ever. So when he says this is the best book on investing, that's going to draw a lot of people towards it. And I was reading there's another book called Security Analysis, also by Benjamin Graham, and Warren Buffett wrote the foreword for that book. And in the foreword, he says that on his bookshelf, he has 4 books that he goes to very frequently. He goes to The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, this book, The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham, and then he also has 2 copies of Security Analysis, and one is from like the author. He has like the version with all the notes. So basically 3 books that he goes to all the time: Wealth of Nations, Intelligent Investor, Security Analysis. He says this one's the best one on investing. That's going to draw a lot of eyes to it. And let me just say that I was not disappointed. I felt like it really lived up to what I expected. Now, let me just say right away, this isn't like good. This isn't the kind of book that like just tells you like, oh, if you just do this, you're gonna make a bunch of money. Like that's not. It's not one of those books. It's not Rich Dad Poor Dad. In fact, I'm going to parallel this book with Rich Dad Poor Dad, where I feel like this book is like what Rich Dad Poor Dad is like actually like trying to say that it is, where it'll like actually help you like make money in a passive sense, and where it doesn't rely on like specific numbers. Like for a book, like if you like just like flip through the book, you would see like a bunch of charts and graphs and stuff. But this isn't really a book that's based on like super technical analysis. It is based on principles of investing. And Rich Dad Poor Dad says that it's based on principles of investing, but really it's just based on nonsense. I cannot stand that book. This doesn't even compare though. This is the real deal. And so I would highly recommend this book to anybody that is thinking of investing in the stock market, bond market, financial markets in general. Just the principles that are taught in this book, I feel like are really useful and can stretch across a wide variety of spectrums. And the other kind of cool thing about this book is so it's gone through many different editions. And so because of that, you have a chance to see whether or not what Benjamin Graham was saying like in his earlier editions was correct. Because in his, the newer editions, he talks about, back in, 1960, I said this, and then this is how right I was. And shocker, he was right on a lot of things. I saw a data point that said that he averaged out over his career of investing 20% annual return over his like entire career of investing. So every year averaged out 20% annual return. That's really good. That is really good, especially like with what he's espousing. And like I really like it because I mean, like I said, it's mostly based on principles, and so a big part of that is like determining whether or not you want to be what he describes as like an enterprising investor, where you're like trying to make a lot of money, or more of like a, I forget the terminology he used, but more of like a passive defensive investor that's more looking to be more geared towards savings, maybe like being able to live off your savings, opposed to the enterprising investor who's looking to actually make more money. There's also a big differentiate that Benjamin Graham makes between investing and like kind of speculation, which is what we see like on Wall Street, or like think like those quantitative traders that like they'll just trade like 1,000 times a day. Like they'll just wait for something to go up a penny and then they'll trade it and they'll do all over. That's not what this book is about. That's not what it teaches you to do. It teaches you how to do like value investing, where like you find something that you feel like it plays off of this notion of a margin of safety, which is basically you find something that is being undervalued by the market by looking at the company's financial statements, or just other aspects, their management via their board of directors, or like their CEO and whatnot. You look at these things, and you look at its stock price, or a variety of other things, and you determine whether or not where it is currently being valued is accurate to what its true value is, and then from there you kind of decide whether or not it's a good purchase. And so that's a lot different than just trying to basically game the system, which is what a lot of like speculative investment does. And that's really based on a lot less science and data. And like I really liked this book because it kind of goes against the notion that because I'm a finance major in college, it goes against this notion that we're like constantly taught in finance, where it's like if you want higher return, then you need to take higher risk. This book directly goes against that and says that is not true. Someone can gain superior return with trying to minimize risk. And it's all a matter of like using your head. It's not just this thing where it's like, oh, if I just invest in this risky asset, then like, my chance at return is higher. That's not necessarily true. If it's not a good company and it's more risky, then your chance at return is probably lower. And so this is a notion though, like which might seem kind of make sense that Benjamin Graham says that, but this is literally what is taught in finance schools. And so it was pretty refreshing to see him talk about that in that way. I would also like to mention that I had the version that had kind of commentary in between each chapter by a man named Jason Zweig, and I really enjoyed that commentary. I don't think that the book would have I think it would have still been very useful without it, but it was really nice to get more of a and even more, because even though this book has gone through many editions, to get an even more current take on kind of the things that are being said, I felt was really beneficial. And so like I said, because even though like some of the writing in this book is a little older, I still felt like it was very like attainable. It wasn't like it didn't push you away or anything. And then like some of the parts of the book I found, the history of the stock market, I thought that was like really interesting. I also found like what it had to say on inflation pretty interesting. Some of the parts I thought were a little bit more dry and like less useful was kind of what it had to say about like financial advisors and like hedge funds specifically. I just didn't find that particularly interesting. But like if this is the kind of book where like I'll be going back to it, like I read through it one time. I don't think that that's really the optimal way to read it. I feel like it's the kind of thing where like you should go through it, look at what it has to offer, and then as you go through your investing world, you kind of go back to it, and that kind of harpens back to how Warren Buffett frequently goes back to this book. And like if he's going to frequently go back to it, this isn't like a one and you're done kind of book. And that's not what it's set out to be. It's set out to be something that you can like reference back to. And I definitely plan on referencing back to it when I plan on making investments in the future. So anyway, I would highly recommend this book to anybody that is thinking about making an investment in the financial markets. Highly recommend it. If you're thinking about reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, don't read this book instead. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this review, make sure to like and subscribe. But if you disagreed with anything I said, please leave a comment down below, and have a great day.